I'm a big fan of One Piece and I'm excited for DC20, so I thought it'd be fun to make some DC20 One Piece character builds. I'll be building 3 characters up to level 4, and generally I'll be prioritizing the flavor and vibes of the character over mechanical strength. I don't think any of these builds are that unoptimized, but if you actually want to play as one of these, then I recommend building it a bit differently yourself. Also, building characters is just fun, and there's hundreds of different accurate ways you could build any of these characters. So maybe use this video primarily for inspiration. Now, before I get into the character builds, I feel like I should quickly explain what DC20 and One Piece are. Since I imagine there might be some people watching this just for DC20 or just because it has One Piece in the title. So to put it simply, DC20 is a tabletop role-playing game, sort of like Dungeons & Dragons. And in case you don't know what that is, Dungeons & Dragons is a tabletop role-playing game sort of like DC20. And One Piece is a pirate series, sort of like Jake and the Neverland Pirates. And in case you don't know what that is, Jake and the Neverland Pirates is a pirate series, sort of like Vestige's One Piece Dungeons & Dragons series. So hopefully that clears up any confusion. Now onto the character creation. Starting with Nami's attributes, I'll have a -2 in might, +2 in agility, +1 in charisma, and +3 in intelligence. For her skills, I'll put a point into awareness, intimidation, trickery, stealth, influence, insight, and survival. Then I'll convert the last skill point into 2 trade points. Now for her trades, I'll put a point into nature, cartography, cooking, vehicles, and lockpicking. Lockpicking is debatable since I don't recall her ever doing that in the manga, but in the live action she picks a lock, so that's good enough for me. If there was a trade for sewing, I probably would have taken that since Nami has fixed Luffy's hat before. Maybe that'd fall under weaving or something else. But I don't know, I'm going with lockpicking. For languages, basically everyone in One Piece speaks the same universal language, just like how in DC20 everyone is fluent in common. So I don't think there's anything super fitting I could spend these 2 language points on, so I'll just have her be fluent in human. For ancestries, I'll be going with half human, half gnome. Gnome is purely for mechanical purposes since they have a lot of traits which felt fitting for Nami. From human, I'm taking trait expertise for cartography, and from gnome, I'm taking mental clarity, predict weather, mana increase, and storm knowledge. Now for her class, I'm going with Spellblade. I know the weather magic that Nami uses is from her climb attack, so technically it'd be more accurate to say that she's a pure martial that just has an upgradable magic item, but I think you could easily flavor it so that her bound weapon, aka her climb attack, is a source of her magical power. If you were to actually play as her, then if you ever got your weapon disarmed from you, that flavoring can make the situation a bit awkward, but I still think Spellblade is the most fitting class for Nami. For the Spellblade disciplines, I'll take Magus and Spell Warder. Originally I planned on taking Spellbreaker, but I felt like Spell Warder was good for representing how Nami can sort of block lightning attacks with her climb attack. For the maneuvers, I'll take Hinder and Trip. Hinder because she uses a staff type weapon, and Trip because it just felt appropriate. And now spells. For the spell list, I'll take Illusion as the one at their spell school. Although pretty much everything relating to spells is going to be changed in 0.10, so I'm sure all this will become outdated in the future. And better, more appropriate spells for Nami will definitely exist in the future too. But for now, I'll take Lightning Bolt for the cantrip, and Crackling Lightning and Silent Image for the spells. Silent Image is a bit of an odd choice, but it's supposed to be the Mirage Tempo equivalent. For equipment, I'm taking a weapon with Versatile and Reach that is a staff weapon style, and light armor that grants +1 PD and 80. She does have some other starting equipment, but I imagine she'll pretty much only be fighting using the climb attack, so I'm not going to cover the other equipment. Realistically, she probably just sell it anyway. And that's how I make Nami at level 1. I think all this fits her quite well. Though, if I was specifically making East Blue Nami, I'd probably have her be a rogue instead of a Spellblade. And I'd probably take more ancestry traits from human, since mental clarity and mana increase won't work as well in the rogue. But besides that, I'd have pretty much everything be the same. But now, for level 2. She gains +2 HP, Spell Strike, a talent, and a path point. For her talent, I'll take Novice Multiclass for Roguish Finesse. Even though I didn't have her base class be a rogue, I do think a little rogue multiclassing is fitting for her. And with multi-skill, I'll put another point into survival for the navigation and weather prediction aspects of it. And I'm spending the path point on the martial path for +1 stamina, the knockback maneuver, and the tumble and dive technique. I was tempted to go the spellcaster path, since I definitely feel like Nami is usually more of a spellcaster than a martial, but knocking people back with her staff and diving out of the way felt fitting, and it just resonated with me more, so I went with it. Now for level 3. She gains +3 HP, an attribute point, a skill point, a trade point, a technique, a mana point, a cantrip, a subclass, plus since it's level 3, that means the combat mastery increases. So that's +1 PD, 80, attack and spell checks, might, agility, charisma, and intelligence saves, save DC, death threshold, and initiative, and yeah, hopefully I didn't miss anything. With the attribute point, I'll increase agility. I'll use the skill point for athletics just because her having a -2 felt weird to me. She probably is one of the least athletic Straw Hats, but I definitely wouldn't say that she's less athletic than the average person. So I think a 0 is a bit more appropriate for her. With the trade point, I'll unlock expertise in nature, which doesn't really do anything yet, but it will in a moment. I'll take Slip Away as the technique. For the cantrip, I'll take Shocking Grasp. For her subclass, I'm gonna have her be a Paragon. With a bit of reflavoring, you could probably make Rune Knight work decently well, but I think Paragon fits better by default, and is the safer option in the long run. So for a Paragon talent, I'll take Sling Blade. Later versions of her climb attack can extend in length, so I think this is a very fitting talent for her. Also, Extended Spell Strike works with Shock and Grasp, which is neat. And thanks to Jack of One Trade from Paragon, I can put a trade point into nature to benefit from the expertise. And finally, level 4. She gains plus 2 HP, a talent, a path point, and 2 ancestry points. With the talent, I'll take Adept Multiclass for Meta Magic, and with that, I'll take Heightened Spell and Quickened Spell. Meta Magic might be a bit of an odd choice, but I couldn't think of anything more interesting or flavorful than it. Maybe in the future, more fitting talent options will be added, but for now, I think this was the right choice. And this time, I'll go down the Spellcaster path for plus 2 MP, the Gust Cantrip, and the Returning Shock spell. Nami has a move called Gust Sword, so I definitely think the Gust Cantrip is fitting for her. With the 2 ancestry points, I'll take attribute increase to increase her charisma. And with that, Nami is finished. Now for the Soul King, Brook. I'll have his attributes be a -1 in might, plus 3 in agility, plus 2 in charisma, and 0 in intelligence. For his skills, I'll put a point into athletics, acrobatics, stealth, and influence. Then I'll convert the final skill point into 2 trade points. And with the trade points, I'll put 3 into history, since its age gives him specific knowledge of the past. With the remaining trade points, I'll put them into occultism and musician. Occultism is due to his connection to the underworld, and musician is for obvious reasons. Languages don't really matter, but I'll go with human. Since DC20 doesn't have any type of skeleton or undead ancestry yet, I'm gonna go half human, half elf. From human, I'll take human resolve, undying, trade expertise, which I'll use for musician, and unbreakable. From elf, I'll take nimble, which feels appropriate since Brook is definitely very nimble. For Brook's class, I heavily considered Spellblade, and I think you make a strong argument for Bard or Champion too, but I ended up deciding on Rogue. Mainly just because I like rogues. I feel like this would be a bit more interesting than going Spellblade again. And the third level reason, which you'll see soon. With multi-skilled, I'll put a point into trickery. With Cipher Speech, I'll say that the specific demographic they can speak in code with is upper society, just due to the time he spent with a certain kingdom. And for the mortal language that he can gain fluency in, I gotta go with Skull Jokes. For maneuvers, I'll take Bleed, Parry, Protect, and Swap. Now his equipment. I'll take a weapon with concealable and multifaceted that has the sword and spear weapon styles. And I'll take light armor with elemental damage reduction. It's a bit weird that it's on his armor, but as a skeleton, Brook is naturally resistant to elemental stuff such as lightning, so I felt that this was fitting. And that's level 1. I think this actually fits Thriller Bark Brook decently well, since I don't recall him doing anything crazy with his Devil Fruits until later. But now for level 2. He gains plus 2 HP, Cheap Shot, a talent, and a path point. For his talent, I'll take Novice Multiclass for Bound Weapon. The Bound damage type is always going to be cold, since I took this to represent how he can code his sword with his soul for cold damage. With the path point, I'll go down the Martial Path for plus 1 stamina, the Sidestep Maneuver, and the Forbearance Technique. And now to level 3. He gains plus 3 HP, an attribute point, a skill point, a trade point, a stamina point, a technique, a subclass, also, combat mastery. So he's stronger in pretty much every way. I'll use the attribute point to increase his might, the skill point for intimidation, and the trade point for disguise, mainly because of a certain Whole Cake Island moment. For the technique, I'll take Slip Away. And for the subclass, I'm gonna have him be a Swashbuckler. I think Swashbuckler fits him very well, and I really like the synergy with Nimble and Flourishes. Now I can full dodge while moving and regaining stamina at the same time. Oh, and with Tall Tales, I'd probably flavor that as in playing music to distract. But now, level 4. Plus 2 HP, a talent, a path point, and 2 ancestry points. I'm taking Novice Multiclass again for Remarkable Repertoire. With Jack of All Trades, I'll put points into awareness and acrobatics. With Magical Secrets, I'll take Sleep and Command. And with Magical Expression, I'll take Auditory. With the path point, I'll take the Spellcaster path. Right now, this doesn't really matter, but I'll take the Bard spell list. I'll gain plus 2 MP, the Befriend cantrip, and the Silent Image spell. So for the spell choices, I chose what felt the most right to me. Like, I think Sleep is perfect for Brook, Silent Image makes some sense, and Command and Befriend are fine, but I'm sure that once Zero That Team releases, there will be tons of better options for Brook. Like if there ends up being a spell that lets you leave your body as a ghost, then of course Brook would have that. But for now, I gotta go with this. And finally, I'll spend the 2 ancestry points on speed increase, since Brook is one of the fastest Straw Hats. And now Brook is finished. I'm happy with how he turned out. I think I captured the Brook energy pretty well. But now it's time for the final character of the video. I really struggled to figure out who I wanted to recreate, since One Piece has so many cool characters. I thought about Doll, Bello Betty, or Lumbus, Domino, and many others. But I ended up deciding on Sadi. The reason I chose Sadi is because I prefer her over Domino. I will not be elaborating further. For Sadi's attributes, I'll have a +1 in might, +3 in agility, 0 in charisma, and 0 in intelligence. For her skills, I'll put 3 points into intimidation to have and benefit from expertise, and I'll spend the other 2 skill points on acrobatics and animal. With the trade points, I'm going all in on the custom knowledge trait of torture. We don't know much about Sadi, but we know that she loves the agony of her prisoners, so knowledge of torture felt appropriate. I'll just go with human for the language. I believe most impaled down prisoners are human, and it's probably important that she's able to understand all the cries of agony for maximum enjoyment anyway. Makes sense. I'll go human and fiendborn for the ancestries. From human, I'll take attribute increase to increase her might to +2, undying, and unbreakable. From fiendborn, I'll take infernal bravery and intimidator. The class I'm going to go with is commander. I think barbarian or champion could also work well for her, but commander felt a bit more interesting to me, and it felt appropriate since she commands the jailer beast. For her maneuvers, I'll take bleed, hamstring, trip, and sidestep. Now her equipment. So, Sadi's weapon is a whip which is concealed in the side of a pitchfork. I think you could reasonably represent that in DC20 by having 2 separate weapons which you switch between. Or you could potentially only have a whip and have the pitchfork be purely for flavor, since the whip is what really matters. But, multifaceted is cool, so I'll go with this. I'll give her a weapon with concealable, multifaceted, reach, and unwieldy, with the whip and spear weapon styles. It's not the most optimal choice, but I like it. And I'll give her light armor, which grants +2 PD. With that, level 1 Sadi is finished. Honestly, I think just this alone portrays Sadi pretty accurately, but there's still some room to improve her. Level 2, she gains +3 HP, commanding aura, a talent, and a path point. For her talent, I'll take novice multiclass for favorite terrain. And with favorite terrain, I'll choose desert and tundra. I imagine that Sadi is used to the different environments of Impel Down, and since level 3 Starvation Hell is basically a desert, and level 5 Freezing Hell is tundra adjacent, it felt like a fitting choice. With the path point, I'll take the martial path for +1 stamina, the knockback maneuver, and the slip away technique. And now for level 3. She gets +3 HP, an attribute point, a skill point, a trade point, a stamina point, a technique, and a subclass. Also, combat mastery increases. With the attribute point, I'll increase her charisma. With a skill point, I'll convert it into 2 trade points. And then I'll use the 3 trade points all in the custom knowledge trait of prisons, since she works in a prison. For the technique, I'll take Sunder Armor, which I chose since I went an offensive technique, and I felt like the flavor of Sunder Armor was neutral enough to fit with Sadi, though this may all change in 0.10. And now for the subclass, I'm going with Warlord. Of course, she isn't a Warlord of the Sea, but I felt like this fit her nicely. And finally, moving on to level 4. She gains +3 HP, a talent, a path point, and 2 ancestry points. This is kind of a boring choice, but I'm going to use the talent on attribute increase to increase her charisma, representing her commanding presence and force of will. With the path point, I'll again go down the martial path, gaining the impair maneuver. And with the 2 ancestry points, I'll take skill expertise and use it on acrobatics. And that's it for Sadi-chan. With that, the last character of the video is finished. If people enjoy this, I could definitely recreate more One Piece characters in the future. Although certain characters can't really be made accurately yet. Like Frank would probably be an artificer, Ace would probably be an elementalist, Robin, So yeah, I might want to wait before making certain characters. But I can still do this again sometime. And I know for a fact I'm going to eventually do a video where I make all the main delicious and dungeon characters in DC20. So that'll be fun. When I read through the series, I took a bunch of notes in preparation. So I've technically already started working on that video. So I probably won't properly start working on it for a while. I might even wait until 0.11 or 12. We'll see. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Tell me if you want me to continue or make a specific character, I guess. Goodbye.